Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Council Chambers, Town of St. Mary's. We are broadcasting live on the Town of St. Mary's YouTube channel. The Council for the Town of St. Mary's acknowledges with gratitude and respect that we're gathering on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee people of the Longhouse, giving thanks for all creation. I'll begin this afternoon by asking for declarations of pecuniary interest, starting with Councillor Craigmile.
None.
Councillor Luna.
None.
Councillor Lucas.
None.
Councillor Pridham.
None.
Councillor Alward.
None.
And I have none. The agenda was circulated. Are there any errors or problems with the agenda as printed? Seeing nothing, I'll seek a motion that the August 25th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be accepted as presented. Someone willing to move the move by Councillor Craigmile, second by Councillor Luna. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item number 4 is our public input period. We have 2 members of the public here, or their staff actually. Was any input to the agenda? Okay, so nothing for today. We'll move on to item number 5. I have no delegations actually for today, so which leads to number 6, which is the acceptance of minutes. Anything with regards, we have minutes from strategic priorities, and as a result, there'll be 2 items that we'll raise. But is there anything with regards to the minutes, any errors or omissions? Okay, so then the suggested motion that the July 21st, 2026 Strategic Priorities Committee minutes be received by council and that minute items 1.4 and 4.2 be raised for consideration. Someone willing to move that? Councillor Luna moves. Councillor Alward seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. As a result of discussion at strategic priorities, it was recommended to council the first motion that the Town of St. Mary's remain status quo and maintain current prohibitions related to permitting alcohol consumption in designated public places, participating in bring your own event framework, and allowing pedal pubs or large quadricycles on municipal roads. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Lucas, seconder. Councillor Luna. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. With regards to the second item, with regards to term governance and committee review, it was suggested from strategic priorities that council makes the following recommendations to the 2026 through 2030 council as it relates to advisory committees. First of all, that council advisory committee system be kept for the 2026 to 2030 term of council, and that the Community Policing Advisory Committee be disbanded at the end of the 2022 to 2026 term, that the Stratford Police Service be requested to bring forward a report to council on a quarterly basis regarding the service level in St. Mary's, and that staff be directed to research and report back how the Town of St. Mary's can achieve representation on the Stratford Police Services Board, and that the Green Advisory Committee be disbanded at the end of 2022 to 2026 term, that active transportation, consultation in the community, and green initiative education be considered as priorities of council, that the 2026 to 2030 term of council establish clear priorities and projects for each committee, that an annual check-in be completed in Q1 with each committee to ensure the committee feels engaged and is on target for meeting its mandate, that the Recreation and Leisure Committee be maintained with the mandate of the Sports Wall of Fame, the staff report back to the next term of council to identify 3 to 4 key recommendations from the Recreation, Culture, and Master Leisure Plan as possible priorities of the Recreation and Leisure Advisory Committee, and that staff be directed to research and report back on how the council liaison to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame may have a more active role on that board, and that council liaison to the St. Mary's Minor Hockey Association and the St. Mary's Lincolns is no longer required, and staff be directed to communicate to both associations that the town will participate in their board meetings on an invitational basis. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconded by Councillor Pridham. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item 6.2 is with regards to the minutes from the July 21st regular council meeting. Are there any errors or problems with those minutes as published? Seeing none, I'll seek a motion that the July 21st, 2026 regular council meeting minutes be approved by council. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Luna, second by Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item number 7 is correspondence. 7.1 is a correspondence from the Huron-Perth Health Unit regarding their 2025 annual report. Any questions or concerns with this correspondence? Seeing none, I'll seek a motion that the Huron Perth Public Health 2025 annual report be received. Someone want to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Luna, second by Councillor Lucas. All in favor? Motion's carried. Item 7.2 is with regards to the Western Lake Regional Conservation Authority. Any questions or concerns with that process? Councillor Craig Mao?
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to mention that the gentleman mentioned in here from the Sauble Bayfield, Mr. Davin Heinbach, he is a resident here in the town of St. Mary's, so we do have somebody close by when we're looking to go to the top or to get questions. So I think that's good for us locally.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further with regards to this correspondence? Seeing nothing, I'll seek a motion that the correspondence from the Western Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority regarding the project executive appointment be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Craigmile, second by Councillor Alward. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. The third piece of correspondence is an interesting one. It's from the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism. Any comments or questions with regards to this correspondence? Basically, I'm not changing my mind, actually. So the suggested motion is that the correspondence from the Ontario Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism regarding the Ontario Heritage Act be received. Someone want to move that? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, moving on to reports, staff reports, monthly reports. The first one, 8.1, with regards to administration. Mr. Kittmer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just a couple of quick highlights in my monthly report. Last council meeting, council, you received a delegation regarding some accessibility concerns with Milt Donald Field, more specifically the dock. So we did hire Sawchuck and Associates to come and complete an accessibility review of the dock. While Ms. Sawchuck was there, we expanded her scope to review everything in the area of the dock, so the Lions Pavilion, our new accessible washrooms, as well as the playground that we have work planned for. So she's given us a number of practical suggestions on how we can improve accessibility. So it's not that we're not AODA compliant today. Her lens is more AODA compliant is the minimum threshold, but how can a person who has certain mobility challenges actually use these amenities? So I know Jenna is just in the midst of preparing a report back, and she's working with Public Works in particular on developing how we can implement some of those solutions, and we will see some actions take place this year. I believe it's noted later in the agenda. We also had her firm take a look at the new pavilion down at Milt Donald Field. So they looked at the design while it was out for tender and have given us only very minor suggestions. And we also toured her through the new West Quarry project where there was very few suggestions with the exception of making sure we had appropriate barriers in some of the areas that we considered accessible. So overall, very positive experience, and I think we'll move forward very positively. One other note, actually two other notes. Municipal shared services. So recently there was an article in the newspaper regarding the City of Stratford and implementing a warming center for the upcoming season. At the CAO level, we've received further clarification because there is a cost to this. So because it was an unplanned initiative for 2026, the City of Stratford is going to absorb the cost of a warming center for all of 2026. But as it moves into 2027, they expect to move the costs onto the three shared partners, being the county, the city, and the town through shared services. The rationale is that the warming center is having a positive impact. They're seeing reduced wait times at hospitals, reduced visits, and also reduced draw on their emergency shelter in the winter time. The emergency shelter costs, especially being what already affects MSSSC costs. So it is something that will come up through the budget process when we start looking at it at the Municipal Shared Service Committee, but I wanted council to be aware of that we will be participating in it. What they've noted though is that now that Stratford has a very large encampment and is providing more services, a number of the clients that were in communities like St. Mary's and North Perth have made their way to Stratford, and that's a further part of their rationale that they are truly serving the entire county through this initiative. There's a note in here regarding the MTO and Highway 7. I thought, Mayor Strathley, maybe I'd have you speak to that because you were the one who advocated with MPP Ray for review of the James Street intersection.
Sure. The fire chief approached me because it's been an ongoing issue, and things pile up. And they talked when I was first elected, there was a bunch of us actually approached the MPP at that time about improving safety at that intersection, because the chief has raised a concern about the number of calls we're being called to. I wrote a letter to the MPP and also spoke with him, and he has been in touch with the MTO, who is notoriously slow. The MTO is notoriously slow, but they have been at the site and they have basically stated that there will be changes coming. There's no timeline as of yet, but that intersection remains a concern, and of course it draws resources from the town of St. Mary's, so we're hopeful that something will happen in the next calendar year.
And the clerk has provided me a note that her information is in here for council to review, and we'll take any questions. However, I thought maybe you could just explain on the election part, especially around PLE.
Thank you, Mr. Kittmer. Through Mayor Strathy to council. The preliminary list of electors has been received by each municipality across the province of Ontario. Clerks are now in the midst of updating that with any final information. If we have lists from nursing home, retirement homes, or also apartment buildings, we are trying to get that updated very quickly. And now, as of September the 1st, we will be opening up to the public to begin to check in with the clerk's department to see if individuals are on the voters list, so that ahead of our advanced voting dates or on election day, we can avoid some lineups for the need for amendment. So starting September 1st, we'll be available to serve the public, either walk in downstairs here at Town Hall, or individuals can call our general phone number and dial extension 0 and be able to receive more assistance with the preliminary list of electors. Thank you.
And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councillor Alward.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just curious, with the accessible dock concern, are we seeing like increased costs with the expansion of the assessment, or?
So in my view, the assessment was relatively cost effective. So it was just over $1,000 for the visit and the report. And most of the work that we will need to do will be done in-house through Public Works staff. So like a good example, with the playground, we were already intending to make the surface more accessible, and Ms. Sawchuk just gave us some tips and advice on how to improve our layout and where to place amenities, and where we could put hard surface pathways. So again, the hard surface pathways are already budgeted in our budget. We'll just redirect our concrete budget to the park in those areas. So for the most part, it's just there are physical changes that we can do ourselves with our own staff and our own material.
Councillor Luna.
Thank you, Worship. This grant that you've applied for 14 Church Street, how much could it be if we're successful?
So it's the FedDev program will fund anywhere from $0 to $1 million, but they have when we attended their webinar on how the program works, what they are prioritizing are projects that meet a number of criteria, and the Church Street project perfectly fits most criteria. So it'll just come down to how well we wrote the grant against what exactly they're looking for. One component that they were they stressed was very important to them was FedDev funding not being a significant portion of the overall funding plan. So they made it very expressly clear that they would prioritize projects that leveraged other funding sources. So we asked for just under 20% of the cost. So it was around $525,000 we've asked for in a grant. And we've had one quick back and forth with them, but our application has been deemed complete, so now it's in process review. There are also other grant funding programs that are coming out in the fall. We have reached out specifically to the Stratford Perth Community Foundation, and they do believe that Church Street has some merit for some of their funding programs. So through Ms. Braham and myself and the library CEO, we'll be pursuing grants there as well. So we're following through on council's direction to pursue as many grants as possible. And you will see very soon that in September, the library will be launching a more overt community fundraising campaign. So they've done their soft launch, and now they're going to be meeting with businesses in the downtown or in the community and asking them if they have any interest in donating to the project. And I know they already have some pretty good leads. So our goal between community fundraising and grant programs is around $1 million. And if we were to get the FedDev grant plus our pledges to date, we're almost at $1 million.
Okay. Further questions with regards to administration? Okay, saying nothing then, the suggested motion is that amend 34-2026 August monthly report administration be received. Someone willing to move that motion? By Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8.2, with regards, we have 3 proclamations. And I'll refer to Amanda, please.
Thank you, Mayor Strathy. So this report outlines 3 proclamation requests. Council has seen this report in previous years, back last August in the previous one. Along with these proclamation requests, 3 flag raisings have been requested as well, and these are being organized in line with the commemoration policy through the clerk, who's been delegated that authority. If there's any questions on the proclamations, happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. We have seen all these proclamations in the past. Any questions with regards to the organizations or anything? Okay, none, thank you. Do I need to read them all, or can I just say the... as presented? Thank you, that saves me a lot. So then the suggested motion would be that report admin 35-2026 upcoming proclamation requests be received as presented. Someone willing to move that? Councillor Craigmile moves, Councillor Alward seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on then to, with regards to a lease for a communications tower at Spruce Lodge. Mr. Kittmer, please.
Yep, so just very briefly, Council, it's more of a housekeeping item. So the 3 partners being the county, the city of Stratford, and the town, we own the land and the facilities that Spruce Lodge is located on and operates out of. In 2025, Spruce Lodge negotiated a lease with Bell Mobility, similar to what we have done earlier this year for a cellular tower on their site. This year, when Bell Mobility went to register the lease against the lands, they realized that the 3 municipalities were the owners of the land, and now they need our consent to the registration. So we've completed a cursory review of the lease and find it to be almost the exact same as what we've just recently agreed to at Carling Street. So at the staff level, we have no issues with the registration. We'll be recommending it. And I will just provide a quick update that the county has also considered this report already and has consented to the registration as well.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Luna?
Thank you, Your Worship. I apologize to staff and council that I didn't bring this up at the time that we were discussing at the Spruce Lodge level, but it just seemed like a no-brainer, and I wasn't aware, we weren't aware at the time that there was a lease issue, but it's on Tower 1 at Woodland Towers, and that apparently is the highest point in Stratford, so it makes sense to have a tower there. It's working extremely well for the residents, and it is a source of income for Tower 1, so it's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? Okay, so the suggested motion is that amend 36-2026 consent to registration of lease Spruce Lodge be received, and the council provides its consent to register the lease between Bell Mobility and Spruce Lodge Nonprofit Housing Corporation on title. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Luna, seconded by Councillor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Moving on to 8.4, we have the August monthly report for culture, tourism, and engagement. Ms. Cubberly, please.
So just a couple of things I wish to highlight in my monthly report. So it's been a great summer at the museum. So overall attendance is up 69% from last year. So we're continuing to see the trends we want to see coming out of COVID. This week and next is a bit of a transition week at the museum. So both of our summer students wrap up on Friday, and one does unfortunately have to work this final weekend shift. So Sunday is her final day, and then we have our new curatorial and programming assistant starting on Monday. So a quick turnaround there just with the way Labor Day is falling this year. The museum hosted a group of employees from Votorantim in Brazil. So that's the company that owns the St. Mary's cement plant. And so they're doing a tour of all Votorantim-owned cement plants, as well as the community archives, to see what sort of information is held there on the history of their plants. So they were quite impressed by the collection in St. Mary's. And then our assistant curator presented on British home children. So this is an exhibit that she researched and has put together at the museum. And the Rotary Club of Stratford reached out and asked for her to present on the topic. So she spoke to 61 people earlier in July. The museum offered 4 walking tours as part of the Stonetown Summer Series. 2 were canceled due to weather. 1 was canceled due to nobody registering, and 1 had very low uptake. So this is something we'll be revisiting next year, whether it was timing or promotion. It was part of that bigger plan to offer more programming and kind of micro events throughout the month of July as part of the Stonetown Summer Series. So we will be doing an assessment and looking at how we can do that better next year. The good news is that 2 of the 4 were being offered by volunteers, so there wasn't necessarily like a staffing cost in preparing for them. And then the museum is in the thick of the Melodies at the Museum Summer Concert Series. So the final concert is scheduled for tomorrow evening, and the weather forecast is toying with my emotions, but I think we're going to be able to make the concert go ahead at this point. For tourism and events, one highlight is just the amount of Yak Shack users. So there were 254 Yak Shack bookings in the month of July. Our Town of St. Mary's Instagram has also been quite active. So there were over 91,600 views recorded on Instagram posts in July. And those posts tend to be entirely either tourism or events focused. So definitely helping to get the word out there over summer tourism offerings and the Stonetown Heritage Festival. And then our tourism and events assistant also participated in the International Model T Club tour. So this was a tour of Southwestern Ontario that included a stop at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. And so she was up there. They had, I think, about 5 hours of unscheduled time following their visit to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So our hope was, let's keep them in St. Mary's for that 5 hours. So she was up there both getting photos and getting some content for our social media, but also handing out brochures and doing what she could to encourage them to go downtown. The Heritage Festival took place on Saturday, July 25th. So this was our first year making some adjustments to the festival in terms of having the street festival end at 4 p.m. We partnered with the Kinsman Summerfest to host it on the same weekend. And then, of course, there was not the street dance and fireworks this year. Feedback regarding the street dance and fireworks was minimal. So I was on the information tent for, I think, all but 20 minutes that day, and I received 1 question about it, and it wasn't necessarily a negative question. It was just why, but they weren't upset about it. So yeah, we were a little anxious about that going into it, but I think generally the public kind of understood the shift, and so we will be doing a debrief with all stakeholders. The BIA survey just closed this morning or maybe at noon, so I quickly reviewed the results of that before coming up here, and overall feedback there was positive, and for the most part sales were up for those who responded to the survey. In terms of communications, I just wanted to highlight that website visits continue to be strong for both the Town of St. Mary's website and the Discover St. Mary's website. And then a couple of special projects that Communications is working on. So they're looking to relaunch a Rec and Leisure guide. So that was a recommendation out of the Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Master Plan to bring back some sort of paper guide. So they have come up with a template for that and are currently gathering information from other departments. We're looking at doing something that would be fairly timeless so that it would be accurate for a year or two. So for example, it's not going to say this specific performer is performing at this specific date and time for Melodies at the Museum. It's just going to say the museum offers a summer concert series. Check our website for more information. So we're moving ahead with that. We had Rogers TV reach out about doing an interview at the West Quarry, so thank you to both Jed Kelly and Mayor Strathty who participated in that interview. And then much of the communications focus has been on supporting education around the upcoming election. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions with regards to the tourism monthly report? Councillor Craigmile.
Thank you, Worship. Amy, you mentioned that you don't have the data yet because it just closed the BIA feedback on the Heritage Festival. And I think, I'm not sure what the questions were, but I think that data is very good. I'll give you a couple examples. I heard from one who's a service provider and said, had zero complaints about people trying to find parking or didn't mind parking a block or walk out down Queen Street to a store, so that's positive. Another store downtown told me that sales were probably 100% increase that day, so that's very positive. So I've just, that kind of data is real important for people sitting here to understand when we want to know what events should go on or whatever, to know how it's really impacting all of the downtown businesses.
Okay, thank you. Further questions or comments with regards to the report? Councillor Alward.
Thanks, Your Worship. So in the event that a kayak is damaged, as happens, that's in the CTE budget, right? If I know the donation was made and all that was covered, right? But in the event that another one was damaged,
Yeah, so through the mayor to Councillor Alward, so when a kayak is damaged, we solicit a donation for it. We have not been operating under a system where we have like a replacement schedule.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? 254, that's a big number, actually. I'm surprised. That's really good, actually. I will say I had someone approach me when I was at AMO about the program, how they had used it from Guelph, actually, which is interesting. So I think that speaks well to the program, actually. So, anything further? All right, so the suggested motion is that CET 29-2026 August monthly report, culture, tourism, and engagement be received. So I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. So next up is the report back with regards to the tourism action plan, and we also have Ms. Deeks Johnson as well has joined us. If there's any further questions with regard to that, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, so before you this afternoon is a tourism action plan, which is a quite intensive plan starting in September 2026 and continuing through to year end of 2027. This plan has pulled together all of the recommendations that were made by Council in June, as well as all priorities identified in the 2024 tourism marketing strategy that was passed by Council in early 2025, as well as the 2026 strategic priorities that were decided upon by Council in April of this year. So the plan has been written under the assumption that the budget that this department has is the budget that this department will have moving forward. So it's really just focusing on adjusting staff priorities and looking at what we can do within the current budget. Also recognizing that our tourism and events coordinator, that role went from part-time to full-time last year. And my role, of course, was created as well. So the department's about as well staffed as it could be, and now it's about just simply implementing the plan and better communicating the work that is going on in the tourism and events department. So going into the actual plan, the plan really focuses on making tourism the primary focus of economic development. So of course, there still will be some one-off economic development requests that come into the town of St. Mary's, and we're going to do our best to respond to those, but we're shifting more of a staff focus onto bringing visitors to St. Mary's with the hope that that is what drives economic development in our community. And so it builds on our existing brand foundation. So we do have some great branding for St. Mary's, some kind of cohesive color choices, things like that. So further building on that, and then focusing on using reusable marketing assets. So whenever we're creating new photography or videography, having a lens of let's capture this in a way that it will be useful again next year when this event comes around, or we could use it at a future date. So some assumptions of this plan are, of course, that there's 2 permanent full-time staff in this department, being both the manager and the coordinator, as well as seasonal support. So we typically hire a 16 to 12-week seasonal assistant, as well as hands-on director support. And it also assumes no staff turnover during this implementation period. So that is one challenge this department has faced. There has been a high level of staff turnover. And so every time that happens, there's momentum lost in implementing any sort of plan. And then, of course, it assumes that there's no additional budget for tourism and events in 2027. So I have started looking at the 2027 budget, and there will be some reallocation of lines to better reflect priorities, but I don't anticipate there being an increase there in order to implement this plan. Content-wise, there were just a couple of things that I wanted to specifically draw to council's attention, but of course, Kelly and I are happy to answer any questions specific to the plan. So a couple of items in this initial first 4-month phase. One would be confirming direction for social media. So we have the Discover St. Mary's website, and then we have our Town of St. Mary's Instagram and our Town of St. Mary's Facebook, but we're using the Town of St. Mary's Instagram almost entirely for tourism and events promotion. So we're proposing rebranding that as Discover St. Mary's, like the handle of Instagram, so that it better aligns with our tourism direction, and then creating a separate Facebook account that is Discover St. Mary's as well, so that the Town of St. Mary's one remains our here's where you go to vote and here's a road closure kind of notices, and the other one is tourism focused. So this is when we could really start at any time. We have met with corporate communications about this one, and they have created a full implementation plan on what sort of resources would be required. And there are some pros and cons. So for example, when you change an Instagram handle, we would lose anything we're tagged in at Town of St. Mary's. That's fairly minimal though, like we would keep all of our followers, everything like that. So I think this is one of those, we just need to kind of rip the Band-Aid situations and know there's going to be some work to be done there, and there will be things like lost tags, but moving forward, I think it better sets us up for tourism marketing. And then the plan to implement a fall tourism and events recap. So this is something that staff would start looking at immediately as well. And this was something that came out of the 2026 strategic priorities. Moving into the next section, the one I wanted to highlight, which is on page 10 of the plan, is confirming the 2027 seasonal assistant recruitment plan and looking at a possible Tuesday to Saturday work week. So we were finding that this role, there's potential for them to be out both in our community and potentially in other communities promoting the Town of St. Mary's more. So looking at some of the baseball tournaments that are happening, perhaps there's events in Stratford they could be attending, things like that. So potentially looking at that Tuesday to Saturday work week as opposed to Monday and Friday with weekends that they're then trying to flex during the week in order to have a more steady staffing complement to get out to support some of those summer events. And then into the final phase, just another one I wanted to highlight for September to December 2027 on page 13 is strengthening tourism support provided during winter sporting events. So Of course, I don't think we necessarily have the staff to do this, but I think there's an opportunity to strengthen our volunteer program. And if we know there's a tournament with 30 teams coming to the PRC, is that something that we re-engage the tourism ambassador volunteers that we use at events like Heritage Festival and have them at the PRC handing out brochures, making lunch recommendations for teams and things like that. So those were just a couple of specifics I wanted to touch on, but we'd be happy to answer any questions about the plan.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Questions from council? Councilor Pridham.
One question, just when you were talking about rebranding or changing Instagram from Town of St. Mary's to tourism focused, what was it called, Discover St. Mary's. Wouldn't you continue to hashtag the Town of St. Mary's in all your posts anyway to capitalize on that really high, followership within that platform?
Yes, so through the mayor to Councillor Pridham, there would be a lot of cross-posting happening, especially for that first little while. In terms of Instagram, we would simply just be changing the name of our handle. The Facebook one would be one that we would be starting from scratch. So yeah, there would definitely be a lot of cross-posting happening there as we try to build that followership.
Councilor Howard.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just curious with the BIA MOU and the scaling back of support sort of thing. Obviously, I assume you would make clear that scaling back in the process of delivering that MOU, in terms of administrative support and such.
Yes, that is, through Mayor Strathgy to Councillor Elward, that is correct. So I have met with the chair of the BIA and our clerk to just get a sense of how both parties are feeling with the level of administrative support being provided right now. But yeah, that would all be outlined in the MOU. There wouldn't be any surprises for the next term of the BIA.
I just had a question, if I can, about the triathlon. Is it an event that's going to carry on? And sort of, because we haven't heard a lot about it. And our number of events is quite substantial, actually. I know volunteers is a problem, and I know that staff have picked up some of the slack. I know when the service clubs aren't able to as well. And I'm just curious where that event is at and whether it has a future or what's going to happen.
So I'm not sure if Ms. Ishii is on
Sorry,
the line.
yeah, I suppose it's not your, it's not
specifically to it.
Okay, there you go. No, it was on your report, and I should have actually. I apologize for that, but thanks, Stephanie.
No problem. Yes, we are going to continue with the triathlon. It will be an annual event that will happen the same weekend every year at the quarry. This year it grew in numbers compared to the previous year, and we do expect to see numbers double again next year.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Craig Mao?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess initially, I think from our meeting at the end of June to now, you've already brought a plan together. That's good work in a short period of time, and I do believe it's a constantly changing thing. What works will work, and what won't, you'll make changes as you go along. I did have a thought that I just wanted to throw out there to you, is that I do see a lot now at the accommodations at the golf course stay in place. And that may, they'll be staying there. They may want other tours around town. And in fact, even in the wintertime, I notice out on trees, they have snowshoe courses. There's 3 or 4 of them set up. So, maybe we can do something to pick on some of the tourism coming to town from there. So I think those are all very positive. But my real question is, has this been discussed at all with the BIA? Or are they understanding what it is we're moving to and how it might impact them?
So through the mayor to Councillor Craig Mile, no, those specifics have not yet been discussed. In meeting with the chair, I'm getting the sense they are very pleased with the level of service and support that they are receiving from the town. And I think there's opportunities to make minor clawbacks without overhauling that entire relationship.
Okay. Any further questions or comments with regards to the plan? Councillor Alwyn.
Thanks, Your Worship. And maybe I've missed it in here because this is excellent. By the way, you guys have adapted essentially exactly what we discussed previously with regards to this plan, and I'm very impressed by that. My question is, have you found any opportunities to bring other businesses downtown and beyond to things like the quarry, or like try and have different pop-ups or features that way?
Through the mayor, Councillor Alward, we haven't discussed businesses actually setting up at the quarry. No, that's not something we have discussed, but we've definitely discussed how to bring attention to businesses at the quarry, including with the BIA specifically, but also just with the team at the quarry as well, in ways we can engage what's happening there. We've done a few extra things this year than we've done previously, such as for Heritage Festival Day, we did a bunch of sandwich boards and signage out at the quarry for that day, just to let everybody that was there know that this was happening downtown and that they should venture down. As well as with other days, we've done things like that, and then we've added various brochure walls, etc., but not specifically doing pop-ups at the quarry for the days. No, not yet. But it's an excellent idea.
Okay. Anything further on the report? Okay, thank you. Is there anything you wanted to add, Amy, or no? Kelly? No? Okay, so then the suggested motion is that report CET 30-2026 Tourism Action Plan report back be received, and that a council adopts the Tourism Action Plan 2026-2027 as presented. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Pridham, second by Councillor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you for your work on this. Moving on to item 8.6 with regards to building and development. Is Mr. Brower on the line? Yeah. Afternoon, Grant.
And Your Worship.
Yep.
Afternoon, Your Worship, and afternoon, Council. You'll see my report in front of you. A couple of things I want to talk about, mainly around the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw is on time as far as how it's going to be delivered. There is a statutory public meeting set for September 22nd, and that statutory public meeting is with Council. Last night we had a joint meeting between the Committee of Adjustment and the Plan Advisory Committee. We got some good dialogue there, as well as the open house went very well. We had roughly 25 people attend. It's probably getting more uptake now than it has when we first started out, but it seems to be going very well. One project I want to touch on as far as on the facility side, we are, the town hall steps are the one side we're just finishing up with deficiencies right now. And then we are looking at delaying the front steps until probably next fiscal year, once we establish what's going to happen with the contract between now and then. At that time, I'll be able to give Council a better update than what I am now. Open to any questions anybody may have.
Great, thank you. Questions with regards to building and development? Councillor Pridham.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a question about 940 Queen Street East, and it says here new residential building with 25 rooms. Is that 25 units? Are they apartments or rooms?
Through your worship, Councillor Pridham, now the concept today is rooms.
Rooms. Could you elaborate on that? What does that mean? Are they boarding rooms, or what is that?
So when you take a look at, they could be one or two things. And sorry that I'm so evasive on it, or not, because we're trying to get some answers from the applicant themselves. So what we understand is two different models that are being floated or being pushed to us. Is one of them is going to be, they're basically hotel rooms, like a building with a hotel room where you go there and rent a room. The other idea that we're having is going to be rooms for long-term living, meaning is it something that weekend where a company comes in, they're working in town, they can establish short-term living, but not as short-term as a hotel room.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Howard.
Thanks, Your Worship. Easy one for you, Grant. The presentation from the open house for the zoning bylaw, is it available online? I just had a resident ask.
Through your worship, Council Howard, yes, it is. It is available online. It's only 15 minutes or so, if that. It goes over the slide deck. But if that resident has any questions or wants to have any further questions at all, they're either welcome to either push them to me, or if they want to come to the statutory public meeting, they're more than welcome as well to have that time.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, further questions? Okay, thank you for your report. Grant, the suggested motion then is that DEV 40-2026 August monthly report, building and development, be received. Someone going to move that motion? Moved by Councilor Lucas, second by Councilor Aylward. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All is in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, Grant. You gonna stick around for this next one?
I will.
Okay, thank you, because we may need you. Well, I'm just surmising. Oh, I didn't realize Mr. Kuzno's there too. We might be fine. The
I'm
next
sure
report.
the three of us, we can muddle our way through this. Yeah.
Three actually explain all this. So the Milt Donald project, and are you going to lead off, Mr.
Yeah,
Gibbert?
so I'll introduce the report, Council, mostly because this is one of the few times that we've had to have this type of report. So now that we've passed the nomination day, Council has entered into a restricted acts period. What that means is you have less than 75% of your council returning. So for St. Mary's, our threshold is less than 6. Once less than 6 councillors are returning from term to term, the Municipal Act sets certain restrictions on your authorities. One of those restrictions is to make new budget decisions. So although this project was budgeted for, the tender and the award will be over budget, so it's going to take new budget money. To ensure we have business continuity, a bylaw was passed, and it passed every 4 years, where you delegate certain authorities to your CAO to ensure that the business and municipality carries on while you're in restricted acts period. In the instance where the CAO acts on that delegated authority, I'm obliged to bring forward a report and make sure that you're aware of that action. So we're bringing forward this report because the plan is to award the Milt Donald Field Pavilion project, and my plan is to give instruction to the staff tomorrow to move forward and notify the contractor that they've been successful. Within the front end of the report, I've set out the rationale why. The rationale, just for public disclosure, being that we have a Milt Donald revitalization plan that identified the replacement of the existing pavilion down at the site as a top priority short-term project, and I believe it's the last large capital project in the short term. That has translated into our strategic plan that was updated this year that encourages us to methodically implement the plan. The project was budgeted for, and the tender result is approximately $80,000 over budget. When we were evaluating the financial impact to the municipality, we looked at the entire portfolio of facilities projects and how they performed this year from a tender perspective. And you'll note in Grant's report that facilities projects seem to be bid a little bit all over the place. I think that's reflective of the uncertain market and just the workloads that contractors have. So we've seen a number of projects well overbid and a number of projects well underbid. However, right now we're in a net positive position, so awarding this project, even with the additional $80,000, we'll still remain in a net positive position in terms of our capital reserve. So we feel that all signs point to awarding the project. We did, as part of my evaluation of the decision, I did ask the staff to take a look at the project design and to determine if there's anything in there that we could peel back on to save money and try and get ourselves within the budget amount. What we found was that any of the cuts we would have made to the budget in 5 years from now, we would have been frustrated by those cuts. So things like removing hard surfacing or scaling back on some of the amenities, we didn't feel like it was appropriate for the project. So this is the public disclosure of the fact that's going to move forward. And I apologize to both Grant and Ray if there's some redundancies in the presentation, but As I said, it's our first time presenting this term, and again, we haven't frequently acted on restricted act delegation of authority, but it's here for your information. So I'm going to turn it over to Grant and Ray just to walk through the tender and through the project itself.
Okay, to the mayor, to the council, I'll be explaining this project to you regarding the pavilion. The scope of work for this project includes the supply of all materials, labor, equipment, services required to complete construction of the Milt Dunnell Pavilion. The work includes the removal and disposal of the existing building, site work, including earth excavation, fill and compaction, associate construction, electrical and site works, and construction of the new pavilion, along with the accessible parking stall and general location of the new pavilion. Brent's went over all the council issues with this project, so I'll move on from there. And this was part of this project was identified as a priority in the Milt Dunnell Field Refreshment Plan, adopted by council in October of 2026. We provided a tender, put a tender out for this project, which closed on Wednesday, August 5th. We had 8 bids submitted. Chad Hartman Construction was a successful proponent. Their bid was $318,547. This is inclusive of HST. Net HST, their bid was $286,861.44, which put it over budget $66,861.44. BM Ross Associate Limited Engineers and Planners reviewed all the bids. They determined that one of the bids was disqualified due to not supplying the domestic supply chain form. The other bids were all sufficiently adequate for this proposal. The procurement document submitted by the successful proponent was found to be complete, contractually acceptable, and ultimately provided the best value for the municipality. As such, staff recommends awarding the project to Chad Hartman Construction. This bid also includes a $30,000 contingency. So if that contingency isn't used, it'll be less over the budget than anticipated, than listed here. As mentioned earlier, the town had an accessible audit on the proposed design performed by Sawchuck Accessible Solutions. They suggested installing a accessible parking space near the pavilion made of concrete. This is estimated to be approximately $10,000 worth of work that was not originally in the budget. We were asked to go through and review this project and see if there were any savings we could do. We looked at this project as a whole. This pavilion upgrade was part of a larger capital project approved by council for the Milt Dunnell Field renovations. This included the hawk poles, which have been put in already, installed by Public Works, the baseball dugouts, ball diamond bleacher refurbishment and concrete pads, and playground accessibility. Those last 3 have not been completed as of today, but they are planned to be done this summer. As the project is over budget, we did look and assess all our capital projects for the year to make sure that we weren't going to incur too much capital pain to the capital reserve. We listed all the capital projects here for your review in this document. As Brent mentioned earlier, we are in the black by about $216,000. So by adding this overage for this project, it will not hurt our capital budget reserves. Financial implications, we had budgeted $220,000 for this project. The tender was over project by $66,861.44. The accessible parking stall will be, which was not budgeted, is an extra $10,000. We performed a designated substance survey on the existing building, which was $3,403.87. So total over budget for this project will be $80,265.31. This will be transferred from their reserve account. I'm willing to take any questions on the project or
Grant, do you want to
Grant
add?
wants to talk.
Yeah, you want to add something, Grant?
Yeah, I just want to, through your worship and the council, we have a challenge with this. We're not going to talk about next, and that's timelines of projects. So the contractor said they're going to be able to start. When you take a look at BM Ross's letter, they said they're going to be able to start October 5th, and it's going to be a 5-week project. It is our goal to be done prior to winter lights. Notwithstanding, I'm giving caution to everybody, is that we've had a lot of challenges with timelines with contractors of late. Some of those are out of our control, and some of those, some of them are within our control. And what we're going to do is to manage this project in such a way that we're going to meet those timelines, that everything is done prior to that time, prior to the winter lights, and prior to everything being done at that time. Notwithstanding, it may go beyond that. And I just want to, because we've seen enough projects lately that the challenge is once we get those dates, people hold them as a deadline, saying, "Hey, this is what it is," and they expect that switch to be flipped. I just want to let everybody know that that's when the contractor's starting. That's what the Preside timeline is. We'll manage the project more aggressively than what we have in the past to make sure that those timelines are met, that it doesn't interfere with winter lights, because we know how important winter lights is not only to council but to the rest of the community and those coming in. I just want to make that note.
So just to be clear, Grant, if the project took longer for whatever reason, winter lights still would be able to go ahead, or but at a smaller scale? Is that what you're saying, or?
I'm not saying it's a smaller scale, but I'm saying that there may be fencing around certain parts of the flats to delineate the project from the rest of it, and the pavilion won't be able to be used. For example, there is a winter market that's generally scheduled from down there. We might not be able to use it for the winter market. It is our goal to make sure that it's open time for those things. Winter lights will not be affected, except there may be a building with fencing around it, or a partially completed building with fencing around it. But it is our goal to make sure that it's usable for winter lights and during that period.
Okay, thank you. See, I told you there's a reason to keep you around. Another questions with regards to the project. Councillor Craigmile.
Thank you, Worship. So can somebody tell me about, I can understand when it's over the what we budgeted for, the 220,000 we budgeted, but that low bid is roughly, another 68,000, but you have to add that on again to get to the next bid. So there must be a reason why our budgeted amount was low. Is it just construction costs have gone up that much, or is it material costs, or is it time of year? Or, I'm just pulling at straws here, wondering why we're so low. Okay.
Grant, go ahead.
So the reason I raised my hand, because I'm unable to see Ray because of how everything is on my screen. So that's why I just raised my hand. So I have talked to one of the bidders. I did talk to one of the bidders because we were quite shocked when we saw the prices. When you take a look at the prices, even the high prices, you can build a house for some of those prices. You can build a completed house. So why is a pavilion that much more? The guidance that I was told is that generally people this late in the season have all their projects done, bid for, and they usually bid their projects a bit rich because they'll make room for them. The best time to bid a project is in the spring. So is it because of that? Because again, I was fairly blunt with him, saying what is pushing the price up? Why are we looking at these prices the way we are? They were probably, the person that I was talking to was in the middle of the pack, not at the low end. And he gave me a couple of different ideas why it might be the type of construction method that we're looking at. Some of the stuff I wasn't buying because to me, it doesn't get any simpler to how we're building it the way we are. But part of it, what I'm leaning into, that I'm believing, is that bidding late in the season versus earlier in the season, we do get very good pricing earlier in the season, a lot better pricing earlier in the season. And I think it's one of these projects, a lot of people are busy, they already have their projects, and to fit this one in, if they can make enough of a mark on it. So
thanks, Grant.
Okay, thank you. Further questions with regards to the pavilion project? Councillor Lucas.
Thanks through the mayor. And this may be more of a question to the CAO or Grant, I'm not sure. You touched on a bit, I'm just looking at that town hall stair rebuild project where we've got 260,000 available budget, but it's not a true reflection because we've only got half the project done. So can we, is that going to be a carry forward to a 2027 capital project? Is that what we're looking at, or I'm just curious where that's coming from?
So yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, through the workshop to Councillor Lucas, that from when you take a look at that doesn't have to do with anything with the half. That was the full awarded project at that time. So when we took that stair project, that's the full awarded, and that was the difference between what we budgeted and to what was accepted. There's no difference there between half the project yet, and those changements, those adjustments have not been made because we're still negotiating with the current contractor on those items. So there will be some residual from what we awarded to where we are today. We're not exactly sure where that is today because we're going back and forth. But that value will then change. We will then take that and move it to a carry forward for 27.
Okay, thank you. Further questions with regards to this project? Okay, so just everyone understands that this project was awarded under delegated authority. And so if there's any questions, go from there. Okay, so seeing nothing further then, the suggested motion is report DEV 44-2026 Milton Donald Pavilion project be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Councillor Craigmile.
This may not be a fair question, Grant, but based upon what you told me a little while ago, and that bid is quite a bit lower than the second place bid, the chances of getting a extremely cheaper bid if we delayed it until the spring would be minimal, if probably maybe zero.
Through your worship, Councillor Craig. Well, that's I've always told council construction is never cheaper tomorrow. It's always cheaper yesterday. It's not going to make that much of an impact. I think the bigger impact, if we don't move forward now, is on the use of that space during the springtime and during the summertime of next year. That's why we're pushing the project. That's why we wanted the project done this year, within that time frame, to make sure that, again, the farmers market is there's still a lot going on in the park. Don't get me wrong. It's not saying, hey, there's nothing going on in the park. It's a lower use period through our lens of kind of what's happening. Notwithstanding, we're going to take a serious look on how we're bidding projects like this and when we actually release the RFP to compare to when we want the work done. I think we can kind of improve that.
Thanks.
Okay. And the Conservation Authority might change their mind, which never happens in none of this experience. But anyway, that's an aside. Any further discussion with regards to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you for your work on this, gentlemen.
Thank you, Council.
Moving on to monthly report for community services. Ms. Ishii, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
All good.
All right. As we have a lot of conversation about childcare, I wanted to update a couple that were some points that are really important to note. So the St. Mary's Childcare, we are collaborating with Stratford right now, social services, on a pathway to employment training project. So what this means is individuals come into the center, they shadow along our staff so they can find their way to become registered ECEs at the end of the day. This is at no cost to us. However, it will help with the numbers for childcare from a staffing perspective. So we're going to continue to work with that. A second point to childcare is the city of Stratford has recently recruited, my goodness, community home care child care coordinator. This individual will help. So we've been trying to find ways to find more childcare spaces in our community, which has been very, very difficult. So Stratford has hired somebody that is going to work with Stratford, St. Mary's, and Perth County to try to find in-home childcare providers and work alongside them so we can help to reduce that gap for childcare spaces. So that's something that's coming in September. So we're quite excited about it. I don't know how long it will take to get providers out there, but it's something that we will continue to support Stratford with moving forward. A couple of other points to highlight in community services is the installation of the rock rink. So the rock rink has been installed. The other rink will not be installed until after Labor Day. So that is exciting here. I wanted to highlight the quarry. So our quarry attendance has been a little lower this year compared to previous years, partially due to heavy rainfall, thunder, lightning, and of course, poor air quality days. So we've had a few of those happen this summer. So it has had a bit of an impact on our numbers, but we're hoping we have some longer days this year or more days for our season this year than we have previous years. So hopefully our numbers will still reach that 30,000 at the end. Something to note is Monday, August 3rd was our highest historical high date at the quarry, almost reaching 1,000 people with 998 people attending the quarry that day. So that was a very busy day for our staff, but it was a beautiful day. The senior services, just to update everybody, so we are located in the end zone currently, staff, while the Friendship Center refresh project is taking place. We're going to be getting in a few days later after Labor Day, but things are moving along and things look great over there. So we're pretty excited about that. Those were all of my highlights for community services.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Brittam.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a question about the pathway to employment training and that 6 weeks opportunity. Does that open up an opportunity for the before and after school program with these participants, or do they have to be ECEs before they can be employed in that position?
Great question. So, and I don't have the exact verbiage right in front of me, Councillor Pridham, but what I can say is there is registered ECEs. We do require so many in each room. So for the before and after school program, there does need to be at least one qualified in the room, where the other one could be an EA. So within our program, yes, in essence, we're hoping it helps by getting more registered ECEs within our area, but we can't open, if your question is, can we open the program without registered ECEs? The answer is no, we cannot. We do need registered ECEs to help with the program.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Craigmile, yeah.
Thank you, Worship. So, Steph, the rock rink ice, I assume that it's almost ready for use because it usually takes 7 to 10 days from when you start. So I guess my real question is, how did everything function when you fired up the plant to get the ice in? Did everything work fine, or?
Yes, everything worked fine. Come up and check it out. It looks beautiful. It's quite cold because I'm sitting in the room right next to it. So it does look really good. We're all on track for everything to be operational there. So it's completely in now. They did work on it. The staff worked on installing it last week.
Councilor Lena?
Thank you, Worship. Steph, could I just get a clarification of something you just said to Councillor Pridham? You said we require a certain number of registered ECEs. Is it the town you're referring to or the ministry?
Sorry, let me rephrase that. It is the ministry. It is a ministry requirement. It is not a town requirement. We must follow the ministry regulations for those specific classrooms. Correct.
Okay. Do you know if the ministry has ever been approached by anybody in the province to lower that requirement slightly? Because if you think of a classroom, there's one teacher with, aides and assistants in the classroom, but why couldn't there just be one registered ECE in a class with assistants also? That would, I would think, alleviate some of the problem, would it not?
It could, and I can't tell you if the ministry's ever been approached on that. I suspect they probably have, especially in light of the shortage of registered ECEs in our area. But I can get more information on that from Jen. Jen's not on the line with me today, so I can't give you specifics on that, and I don't want to misspeak. But there are registered ECEs required in each classroom. Depending on the age of the child, there are more registered ECEs required in the classroom than some of the other ones. And like I said, I can get more information on that, but I can't give you specifics as to
Okay,
other ministry conversations at this point.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from council? Councilor Lucas.
Thank you through the mayor. Stephanie, can you just tell me, I see the note in here that your mussels were not as big an issue as last year. Was that good luck or good planning, or we don't know?
We have no idea. I'd love to say it was great planning, but we really, really have no idea. So we'll say it's great planning. But last year we spent a lot of time scrubbing our high touch point areas where people, ladders, rocks by the edges, under the rafts, those types of areas. But we've just found that they're not reattaching or spawning. Nothing's happening this year, so it's been very good. I want to say we've only had 3 or no, maybe that's. I want to say it's been under 10 cuts from them this year, where it was like hundreds last year. So it's very different. Not really sure why. Can't give you that answer, but I mean, it's been good news for us because it hasn't taken us more time to clean them off.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Alward.
Thanks, Your Worship. Steph, I was just wondering, room rentals are up by 20 from July last year. Do you, what kind of events are happening in these rooms when they're rented?
So specifically, I don't have the room rental log in front of me, but we do have a lot of birthday parties, anniversary parties, those types of things, children's birthday parties. Those are also things that we have. Another thing to note, we've had more room rentals because before we were having the room rentals, say in a birthday party in the pool, and when the pool was closed for a period of time there, that wasn't happening. So that's where a number of them come from. But it's just kind of is varied. We try to promote as much as we possibly can for those smaller venues for room rentals, like those parties, anniversaries, those type of drop-in events, and we're very successful with those. So that's kind of where we're at. It kind of goes in a little bit of leaps and valleys as we move throughout the year. But I don't know if that answers your question fully, but it's just it kind of changes seasonally, and we try to promote as much as we possibly can. But I would say this time it's been those smaller type events.
I'm satisfied.
Okay, anything further from council? All right, thank you for your report. The suggested motion is that DCS 26-2026 August monthly report community services be received. So I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councilor Luna, second by Councilor Lucas. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next up is a report with regards to AEDs in sports fields. Steph, please.
Yes, so the Community Services Department has received requests from members of the public to install automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, in our various parks throughout the community. Providing AEDs within our community does represent an increase to the municipality's existing service level, so that's why I'm bringing it forward to council, because it would be a change in what we currently do. So our current practice is we have AEDs within our municipal facilities. There's one in each facility, and they are available for the public and staff use during operating hours, but we currently do not have any outside within our park facilities. Over the past few years, a number of sports associations have approached us and asked us if we would consider putting AEDs within our parks facilities, but putting one in one park facility without treating them all equally the same really isn't equitable or the right move. So that's why I'm bringing this report forward. So what we did, within this report, we looked at our various locations that would require an AED. Where are the most sports happening? Where are the most children, seniors, whatever it is, within the town? And then we looked at what types of units are out there, because there are different units that are temperature controlled, monitored, because if it's in the park, it's not monitored. It could get stolen, it could get damaged. It needs to ensure that it is temperature controlled. So we took all of those variables into play. And then we identified 11 locations within our community that would require them, which was areas where baseball takes place, where soccer takes place, racket courts, lawn bowling, all of those locations where actual sports takes place and where one would be required. We also examined where there was already electrical, where we would need to install electrical for these. So there's only a couple that would need, there are 8 units where existing power is, and then there are other areas where we would need to bring in power. So we looked at all of that. All to say that if we were to go down this path and install additional 11 AEDs within our parks area, sports fields specifically, there would be 11 units that would need to be purchased for a total capital cost of $61,000. And then the forecasted annual operating would be roughly $10,950. That would be for people to be able to monitor, manage, update them, put new batteries in them, new pads, all the stuff that would be required with what we do with our internal ones. We would treat the outside ones exactly the same. So this has been something that's been sitting on my plate for a little bit because more and more recreation organizations are coming forward and asking for this to be placed in parks. So as we're moving into budget and it would be a service level increase, I wanted to bring it to council for approval to look at budgeting it this next year and see if we should move forward with it. I will leave it at that for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Pridham.
Thank you, through your worship. You say organizations are coming forward and asking. Do you know like which organizations are wanting this?
Yes, I do. If you want names specifically, I've talked to almost every outdoor sports organization, but mainly tennis, pickleball, and soccer have been the 3 organizations that have brought it forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Luna?
Thank you, Worship. Is this a typical standard in other municipalities? Do you know, or like?
It is. Some smaller municipalities do not have it. Larger municipalities, like if you go to the City of London or Toronto or some of those ones, they definitely have it in parks facilities. Some of the smaller ones have not embraced it yet. So it's kind of, it's not like everybody's doing it or everybody's not doing it. I think it all depends on budgetary constraints and whether people have the ability to monitor and manage it as well. I think you'll see it grow more in the next number of years as you hear of incidents happening in parks where people are needing them and emergency services couldn't get to them soon enough. So those are the things that are bringing it more to light.
Yeah, it's the monitoring and managing part that's making me hesitate, because somebody uses one out in the soccer field. How are you going to know about that to go and check that it's been put back in its case properly and charging properly and ready for the next use, which could be within, minutes of the first use? We don't know that. And then there's the liability to the town if it's not working properly. I don't know. It's just really complicated, I think. And then there's the winter time are these insulated boxes that they'll be placed in for winter and well, even extreme heat? And
Yes, they are. So I can answer both of those questions. So if they were to go into the parks, we would want them on a monitoring system. So it would be monitored, if you think of it similar through an EMS. So if I went in and I grabbed it out of the park and opened the box, which is weather temperature controlled, so yes, it is protected against the elements, it would automatically alarm to say 911. That's how the system works, and it automatically goes right into the system. Staff would need to check them on a regular basis and log them similarly to how we manage everything else. So staff would need to take that time to go around to each park, make sure that it's there in the box, works, and does its thing, like we do with fire extinguishers and all those kinds of safety checks. So it would be the exact same thing. Hence why there's a bit of a cost for an operational cost annually, because those are the types of things that we would need to monitor. Within this, it also includes the monitoring system of each unit. So it would say bring to 911 if you were to pull one out at one of the soccer fields. It's automatically going to be tied to those systems.
So Sorry, so does that mean that 911 is automatically called out when somebody touches that? Because that's another issue. If there's vandalism, we're going to have 911 coming to all these places all the time. Another
I did think
complication.
of that. That is another
Yeah.
complication. If there's not a perfect system in place, I can honestly tell you that. That's why we were looking at them being monitored in the parks. I mean, you can throw them out there and not monitor them in the parks, and then it would be staff's responsibility to check them daily, or every other day, whatever the system would be. So there's a catch-22 with which way you want to go. If you want to go with them monitoring daily, you are absolutely right. Vandalism could be a problem. But then on the other hand, we could have staff monitoring them as well. There will be damage for sure. It would be something that we would expect would possibly happen in the parks.
Councilor Pridham?
Thank you, through your worship. It also seems to me that the organizations that are asking for them are really seasonal: tennis, pickleball, and soccer. So why, is there an opportunity to, if we even choose to do this, house a unit for a certain couple of months and then store it away till the next season and its use again, instead of holding it outside in the winter months and all of those things that could potentially go wrong? Is it sitting there not being used with no one needing it, at least in those sports?
Yes, there's definitely an opportunity to do that for sure. Some of them would be out longer, so we would still want a temperature controlled unit or box out there to make sure that it was protected from that. A lot of our sports start up in April and tend to go till October, November, depending on what sport it is. So they would still be out in the parks within that time frame. So it could reduce some of the operational costs, but the capital costs would still be the same because you'd still have to install them and purchase the units.
And so then that leads me to, wonder, why would we have to do all 11 parks when there are only certain number of parks that would have, that looks like the potential need for it? So I don't, I know this is probably just for information, right? This is just an awareness thing and you're not expecting.
Well, it is being referred to next year's budget, just for clarification.
Next year's budget?
So it's being presented for information and we are being asked to refer it to next year's budget. So.
And if I can add, while those sports did ask for them, I think all sports need to be treated equitably and equally. Should something happen at Teddy's Field and baseball didn't ask for an AED, but yet I have one down at the racket courts because they asked for one, I don't know that would necessarily be good from a liability perspective. I think you do all or none, in all honesty. I think it needs to be treated the same for all.
Councilor Alward?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think Councilor Pridham and Councilor Luna have covered all the angles I was thinking about. The one I was thinking was, did any of these sports organizations happen to consider maybe some kind of cost-sharing effort for this, or?
At one point, one of the organizations said they would purchase one unit, but it's not necessarily just the purchasing of the unit. It's everything else that goes along with it. So if they purchase a $2,000 unit this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be a suggestion that, each organization has to give so much money annually for these to be placed at their sites. That could be something that I could take back to all of the clubs. That would be something we could consider as well.
Councilor Craig Mao?
It's quite interesting, actually, because I think it's very important that we should have these in the field if it saves one life. However, I do believe in the fall, usually, when we have the service club review, I think a great project is if you can donate one or two of them to the town, and you may find if you need 10 around that you have no problem finding 10 donors to buy them for you, and then you're just looking after the monthly fee or whatever, because there's all kinds of donors want to put a bench out there in the park somewhere. Maybe they just soon have an AED with a little plaque. I mean, I think if we looked at all the angles, so I would say, sure, put it in your budget, but I would try some of these other things too, because I don't, it's, you know, I'm worried that if we talked about it now and something happened and we didn't have one, then it's on us.
Councilor Luna?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I would support Councillor Craig Miles' comments and support the recommendation, but with the addendum that, I don't know how to word it, but that staff pursue methods of like donations, I don't know, pursue donations of units, and that they definitely be removed in off-season, because I think that's that would be a good way to cut down on the vandalism issue and the operating costs.
I'm going to defer to the clerk. Do we need a separate motion to amend the motion, or can we just have that understanding that, because this is going to go to the budget process and that would be part of the explanation, do we actually need to amend the motion as it stands to cover that?
I guess it's up to you what you want the next term of council to be able to know was included at this time. So if you're passionate about this topic, it doesn't have to be amended because there isn't a mover and seconder on the floor. So if somebody just wants to put a separate motion onto the table, but if you're passionate and you want this on the books, then there should be something that's written about that detail.
You want to amend what's there, Councillor Luna? Just, if everyone's okay, that would just take let Councillor Luna, I just wanted to make sure it was covered, that's all. Councillor Luna, and I do want to note that the council chambers was left off the list, actually. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but. Councillor Lucas?
Thanks through the mayor. Yeah, I would agree with kind of the flavor at the table here, that I think it's a good thing to include in our parks, but again, I would reach out to service clubs or the groups specifically that are asking and see what opportunities there are there. And again, I think in January, we probably don't need an AED in, you know, the soccer field in the middle of nowhere. So again, I think maybe look at your operational on that to shorten up the season.
Okay, yeah, I think that captures it. And so, is there anything else before I put a motion on the floor from Councillor Luna? Okay, so Councillor, in the motion would read that report DCS 27-2026 AE deals in sports fields be received, and that council directs staff to pursue financing aspects, i.e. donations of AED units, and that AED units are installed, they be removed during the off-season, and that council directs staff to include the capital and operating costs of the proposed installation of AEDs at sports field and park locations in staff's proposed 2027 operating and capital budget for consideration as part of the 2027 process. Councillor, that captures, okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Craig Miles seconds. Jenna, is that discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Do you guys want to keep going, or you want to take 5 before we have Spencer? Just, where's everyone at? You want 5 minutes, or you want to keep going? Just keep going? Okay. You're pretty popular, Spencer. They want to keep going, actually. Okay, next up is the report from Finance, monthly report. Mr. Steckley, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon through the mayor. There's a couple items I'd like to speak to on my monthly. To begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that staff continue to make significant progress in the recovery of outstanding tax arrears. As of the day of this report, town has recovered approximately $111,000 in arrears. That includes penalties and interest. And that represents approximately 42% of the arrears balance outstanding as at January 1st, 2026. So staff continue to work collaboratively with the residents in order to bring those accounts current. On a related note, I'd just like to remind property owners that the third quarterly tax installment is due next Monday, August 31st. Turning next to Service Ontario, transaction volumes at the town's location have continued to exceed the year-to-date average over the past several months. Based on discussions with local dealerships, we anticipate further growth in transaction volumes as these businesses transition their additional activity to the town's location. And this just reflects the quality of service and strong reputation that the town's location has established in the course of a few years. In other matters, the town has recently completed the community stream audit, and this is administered through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, or AMO. The town was selected at random to undergo an audit, and to date, no concerns have been identified with respect to the information we've submitted. Finally, with respect to information technology, operations are proceeding as business as usual during the period with the associated data and project activities detailed in the body of the report. And with that, I would be pleased to answer any questions from council.
Okay, Councilor Luna.
Thank you, Worship. Regarding the procurement policy, is it coming soon? Will it be coming to this council or the next council?
Through the mayor to Councilor Luna, with the addition of the new deputy treasurer, the thought was to get her to review it as well. We're still working through it. It's likely that it's going to be at the next council, just given where we are at with it. So anticipate it coming before the new council, before the end of the year.
Just because I'm confused whether is there a federal policy or a provincial policy now to buy Canadian, or I'm reading, I don't know, is there or isn't there? And are we following that? That's what my concern is.
Through the mayor to Councilor Luna, there was some legislation brought in back in June. It was called the Buy Ontario Act. It relates to any construction projects of any value. As Mr. Cousineau alluded to, it was incorporated into our past tender for the Milt Dunlop Pavilion. So it is being incorporated into those projects that it does relate to. And again, it only relates to construction-based projects. And so we are abiding by the legislation at the moment. And there will be an update to the procurement policy once that's done.
Yeah, my understanding, we still are part of the CUSMA agreement and are obliged under certain elements of it, even though others aren't adhering. So there was quite a lot of discussion about this at AMO, and I think there will be direction coming from the government one way or another soon, actually. But there are certain trade practices where we have to adhere to. That's the agreement that we've signed on to, even though others may or may not be adhering to them. So it is very complicated. And as we've learned too, we've had cases, I mean, tender law is extremely complicated. I wish it was simple, but it's not. And you know, we've struggled in some cases with that. So I think, to your point, there's going to be more coming, but right now, not a lot's changed other than the Buy Ontario Act. Any further questions with regards to the report? Okay, seeing nothing, then I'll put the motion on the floor that FIN 20-2026 August monthly report finance be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Allward, seconded. Councillor Craigmile, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Up next, 8.11 with regards to Service Ontario agreement renewal.
Thank you through the mayor. This report seeks council's authorization to renew the town's issuing service agreement with the province for the continued operation of our Service Ontario location at the Municipal Operations Center. By way of background, the town has operated a Service Ontario location since 2021, and in 2024, council approved relocating it to the MOC as a pilot project. That pilot project has proved to be successful. It has improved operational efficiencies, enhanced service integration, and created cross-training opportunities between town and Service Ontario staff. The proposed agreement would run for another 2-year term from October 1st to September 30th, 2028, and that would be consistent with our previous agreement. The operating hours and overall service delivery model remain unchanged. So residents would see no interruption to accessing the provincial services locally. From a financial standpoint, the agreement continues under a cost recovery model. The ministry provides the funding, and it's intended to offset the town's eligible operating costs with the objective of a net neutral impact to the town, meaning that local taxpayers are not subsidizing the provincial services. Compensation is set at $100,000 in the first year, and $103,000 in the second, plus HST, and remains subject to an annual reconciliation against actual costs. To date, the town has not incurred any costs exceeding the maximum available funding. And while there are minor administrative and operational considerations, staff are firmly of the view that the benefits to the residents, the businesses, and surrounding communities outweigh these challenges. Accordingly, staff recommend that council authorize staff to execute the renewed agreement. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from council? Okay. I consistently hear feedback about how important this service is. So I know it sometimes does create a little bit of traffic and stress in the MOC, but I do the public is very grateful that we were able to keep the service, our group keep the service going. So I think it is worthwhile. Councilor Luna?
And I agree, as long as it remains cost neutral to the town.
Okay. All right, so the suggested motion then is that report FIN 21-2026 Service Ontario Agreement Renewal be received, and that council authorize the treasurer to sign the agreement with the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement for the operation of the St. Mary's Service Ontario location for the period October 1st, 2026 to September 30th, 2028. Someone willing to move that motion? Councillor Craigmile moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to the Q2 operating and capital financial update. Mr. Steckley, please.
Thank you, through the mayor. So the report before council provides a mid-year check-in on where the town stands financially, both from an operating and capital side as of the end of June. The intent is simply to keep council informed on the town's position, flag anything notable, and share where the capital projects currently sit. Beginning with the operating results, one number in particular warrants some context. On paper, the town is showing a surplus of roughly $8.78 million, but that figure needs to be looked at a little more carefully. Because tax revenue is recognized at the time the bills go out, the June 30th snapshot is carrying revenue that will actually cover the balance of the year. So once that timing is stripped out, the operating position reflects a more modest surplus of approximately $520,000. Nothing in the departmental numbers is raising a red flag for staff at the moment, and at this time, no corrective action is needed. As a reminder to council, a half-year snapshot tends to move around quite a bit, depending on when the money comes in and when the money goes out. So it isn't a firm predictor of how the year will close out. On the capital front, some projects are wrapped up or well along, while others are working through planning, design, procurement, or construction. The usual hurdles remain, lining up contractors, procurement lead times, weather, and shifting prices, but as a whole, things are moving along as expected. In short, the town is on a solid footing through the second quarter, as you can see, and staff do not foresee anything that would throw off the position for the year. And I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions? No? I'd just like to say excellent report, and I think it's very valuable for council and important. We appreciate you providing us this information again, because I think it helps us keep an eye on what's going on. Thank you. So the suggested motion is FIN 22-2026, Q2 operating and capital financial update be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Spencer. Moving on to 8.13 with regards to emergency services. Chief West, are you there, please?
Good afternoon, Mayor Strathy and Council. I have my July report I'd like to present. July was a very busy month. We had 17 calls for service. From July numbers, we're up 5 calls from last year. Year to date, as of today, it's even for 108 calls as of today, and 108 calls for last year. We had 1 fire in Perth South. 2 MVCs were equal, 3 in St. Mary's, 3 in Perth South. CO false alarms were 4. We had 1 actual gas leak in St. Mary's, 1 medical in St. Mary's, and 4 false alarms for fire. Our average firefighter response was down significantly for July, as many members were on holidays, plus we were down a couple members. So that should go back up over the next couple months. Ladder 1 passed its annual test and its 5-year NDT test. All the safeties are fully completed on the trucks. We retorqued the wheels that the tires came off for safeties, so all the vehicles are doing okay. Fire prevention officer numbers, we had 1 complaint, 13 follow-ups from previous orders written, 6 requests. Most of them would be food trucks, those type of vendors. 10 routine inspections, 3 licensing for a total of 33. Public education events, we did Wildwood Camp, YMCA, sorry. About 60 kids present, ages 5 to 10. We did a public education event on Jones Street. Fire training, fire extinguisher training for 1 company in St. Mary's. We also attended the Wheels event at Solis Park for the early on program. And for training, we did pump operation, water supply, pump and roll training, and we did vehicle extrication training. And on top of that, we did our normal maintenance gear and equipment checks for the month. And I'd be happy through Mayor to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief West. Any questions from council? Okay, seeing no questions, the suggested motion is that FD 10-2026 August monthly report emergency services report be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, seconded Councillor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Chief West.
Thank you.
Moving on to human resources. Ms. Nechtel's coming in person. There we go.
Seriously? Okay, it's red. Green is on, I've got to say. Green is on, green shirt. Okay, so I'm going to be brief today. I just have a couple things quickly. One is the recruitment and retention. So you're going to continue to see childcare positions on here, but it's a good thing actually. It's a retention tool. So there's a retirement vacancy. So whenever there's a vacancy, we only post internal. So we have lots of people that are interested in those roles. So then someone else will move into that, and then there'll be another posting. Okay, so that's a good thing. Otherwise, everything on here is either filled or there is an offer out. So that's also a good news story. The other thing I was going to mention is related to payroll. July's really busy and not everybody's aware of this, but one, our grid changes July 1st, but also the firefighters receive their first payment. So they're paid twice a year, so that's kind of a significant process. And then the other thing is Super Splash. So payroll takes care of that. That's done twice, so one of those is done as well. So just a couple things to flag. Otherwise straightforward, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you for your report. Questions from council? Okay, pretty straightforward. Thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
The suggested motion is that HR 15-2026 August monthly report, Human Resources, be received. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Pridham, seconded Councillor Craigmile. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to Public Works monthly report. Mr. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'll be quick. Just a couple highlights. The stuff that's not in the report, the generator for the Emily Street pumping station was successful. So we have a generator on the sidewalk machine. That is a stopgap, quick finger in the dam thing to, it's the only site that we don't have a standby power for. And it's great because eventually development will bring a generator once that comes online, but this will be a 20-year solution for us. So worked well to kind of dual purpose it. So it all worked out. And then you'll notice we've got lots of capital on the way. We've been trying to stress test Austin to see if he'll quit. But so far he keeps showing up every day, so that's good. The sidewalks haven't gone in, the extensions. That's a lot of work. I'd say it's a lot of work to try and squeeze a sidewalk in an existing area. So I really appreciative of staff going to do that. And we've tried to work with residents and try and about driveways and things like that. So it's almost, I'd say, I don't want to say it's as painful as reconstructing a road, but reconstructing a road is almost easier. It's when you're trying to shoehorn them in. So, but we got them, they're in, and I think they look pretty good. We're a little bit behind on our asphalt program. The truck that we used for the drag box had some repairs. It was gone for almost a month. It is back in service, so we'll be starting that this fall. So there's lots of areas that we need to do some hot patching and things like that. The guys have got the operators are using a new pothole system, or a manhole repair system. So you can see we can lift the manhole frame and then reset it all within about an hour and a half. So there's lots of those going on. So they're working through that. I think they're doing some today. So that's great, just as technology moves along. Parks is going great. Beautification looks good. I will note that we're losing our seasonal people in parks. And then we are looking for, we're expecting to keep 2 people longer into the fall, but only one person's able to stay now. The other one's going back to school, that's fine. So in the fall here, we're gonna look to the self-watering planters. We're gonna fill up the water reservoirs on the planters, and we're gonna relax the watering schedule. And then our turf will probably be a little bit more relaxed too. So we're gonna focus on our sports fields, cemetery. But as we move into that fall, you're probably gonna be pushing that cut schedule to, like right now it's like once a week. So now we're probably moving to, on the general areas, probably like once every 2 weeks or something like that. Just, it's a physical limitation. So just as we work through that first year of the new parks, just so eyes wide open, but I think we'll be okay. And then other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions with regards to Public Works? Councillor Alward.
Thanks, Your Worship. It's not really in here, but while I'm thinking about it, our experimental potted trees on Queen Street, is it too early to tell, like, kind of how they're doing there, or?
Yeah, 3 words. Yeah, I think it's somewhat early to tell, too early. So we got those 2 in. The tree will stay potted this fall, and then we're going to bring it back to the yard. There's forks, so we'll bring those back to the yard. We'll do straw cover on those in the backyard, then we'll bring them back out next year. We do have 2 more that we didn't get out this year. We'll have to find locations for, but we're hopeful. I think the planters and everything look amazing this year. I got to really give hands down to clumps, and the greenhouse starting, I think, really helped too. So then we're really hopeful that the reservoirs, and those trees have reservoirs too, But the thing we did notice about the reservoirs is they take quite a bit of time to fill. So that's the kind of the Achilles heel there. So we'll try and get them full, and we're hoping that that'll help us. But you know, there's literature that says sometimes it could go 3-4 weeks. So hopefully we only have to film a couple times moving into the fall, and then everything will look good moving into fall. Yeah.
Okay. Further questions, Councillor Pridham.
And this isn't really a question, it's just kind of a comment or observation about the West Quarry and how popular it has become since the refresh and all the things that are done there. I took a walk by and I counted, you know, just for curiosity, I counted there were 20 people along the shoreline, and half of them were father and son fishing. And it was really cool to see, you know, dads and little guys out there fishing, just standing there, barely saying anything to each other, but together on the space. And so I popped down to the edge and I asked, you know, one of the guys, did you catch anything? Have you caught anything? And he's like, no, we haven't had any luck yet. And I'm like, that's okay. You know, I hear there's fish in there anyway. So I said, he said, haven't been here for a while. And I'm like, oh, so where are you from? And he said, Thorndale. And he said, I heard that this was a really good place to come and fish. And I like the word is spreading that, you know, they're traveling. He goes, I haven't been to St. Mary's since I was a kid. I had family that grew up in the area. And I remember swimming at the quarry, but I really haven't made St. Mary's like somewhere he goes until now. And he's got a young one there. And then I walk further down and there's 2 families. And one of the little girls has caught a fish. And like the whole families are celebrating the fact that, you know, pictures are being taken and it's a great experience for them. And I think now, you know, as people, if they look at what's happening there and down there and how the quarry has changed, the West Quarry has changed, I think it's, you know, excellent, and kudos to everybody that was involved in making that happen. You guys did a great job.
Sorry, so you jogged my memory there. So a couple things that are on the report. We did receive the wrought iron fence for the pillars. It's at the yard. We got a great deal on it through the local hardware store, so they really stepped out and gave us a really good price on that. So it's a 6.5-foot wrought iron fence. We're working with a local contractor to install that. They have experience with it, so that'll be into the fall. We'll get the wrought iron fence done. The benches are ordered. They'll be in about another month, I would imagine. We'll have the benches installed. And then the tree planting is scheduled for this fall. We have several larger shade trees we're going to plant in kind of the turf finish grass areas. So hopefully in a year we have some shade. And then we have a bunch of the bare root trees coming from TD Tree Days, working with Upper Thames. And we'll replant kind of the areas that have been cordoned off for naturalization. So that's all going to happen this fall. So we should get to pretty good substantial project completion this year.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? Okay, so the suggested motion then is that PW 42-2026 August monthly report, Public Works, be received. So I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Lucas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to 8.16 with regards to concrete repairs contract extension. Jed, please.
Thank you, Worship. So Nicholson Concrete, who's had the unit rate contract for the last decade or so, they've offered us agreement to extend the 2023 rates for another 2 years with no cost increase. Staff certainly feel it's a good deal. They like working here. They find it's convenient, and they still feel that there's enough profit inside that rate. So I'm asking council permission to extend. We can go to market if council wishes. It's just they gave me the offer, so I said I would present it.
Okay, questions, comments? Sounds like everyone's okay with the staff recommendation. Then I'll put it on the floor that report PW 44-2026 concrete repairs contract extension be received, and the council authorize a 2-year extension agreement with 465929 Ontario Limited, operating as Nicholson Concrete for the municipal concrete repairs for the period ending December 31st, 2028, for the terms, conditions, and pricing received under PW 41-2023 RFQ. Someone willing to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Alward, second by Councillor Pridham. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. Next up, with regards to the award for asphalt resurfacing, I believe Mr. Luegi is going to.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so this is for the annual Mill and Pave program. So project details, the annual asphalt resurfacing project encompasses sections of Jones Street East, Emily Street, and Queen Street East this year, with the primary objective being renewing, renewing the municipal infrastructure and improving our roadway safety by surface conditions. The scope of work includes the supplied materials, labor and equipment necessary for resurfacing of various asphalt surfaces. We're doing this by, sorry, pardon me. We work to isolate the base asphalt repairs and targeted driveway transitions to be completed and improve roadway performance and operating safety. Just for a couple extra details. Tender closing date was Friday, August 7th. We received 4 bids on this project. The current successful proponent is Armstrong Paving and Materials. The approved budget for this project was $311,000. The cost result from the successful bid is a total of $214,092.99. The cost result for the successful bid net of HST is $211,000, $324.56. So we are not over budget with that. We actually are well within budget, which was not forecasted due to the price of AC index that has increased over the fiscal year. So one of the motions that we have put forward is that in utilizing the additional budget, we would like to recommend that that council and the mayor would give staff the opportunity to hire BM Ross and Associates for daily inspection services to be administered by myself as necessary.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Craigmile.
The daily inspection that you're asking, the extra, is that just to make sure that the job is done the way it's supposed to be done?
Thank you, Councilor Craigmile. Through the mayor, so yeah, we have, this was a topic that had been brought up earlier in this year in one of our closed sessions about a contractor evaluation that's going to be implemented within our procurement process. This is to be done on projects that are over $100,000, and this is something that's blanketed across all of our projects. This was a discussion based off of securities in how we protect ourselves as the town for performances that are conducted throughout all of our various projects. So the request to have BM Ross to be present is to purely hold that responsibility to be able to uphold this evaluation process in our first year.
Sorry.
Jim, just put your microphone, yeah.
On top of what you've been saying there, is that idea too for yourself to mentor under BM Ross so that in the future you'll be able to do more of that versus him if your time permits?
Through your worship, so admittedly, we had a discussion about what to do about procurement over the $100,000. So right between the $100,000 and the $500,000, you have that that gray area where you kind of have your carte blanche of what you can do. Unfortunately, Mr. Luigi is the first one through the gate with the new the new process. So we have a draft contract evaluation attached to the report. It's on page 192 of the agenda. The concept is this will be presented to the contractor before they sign the PSA, and we are going to agree that BM Ross will be the independent third party. So much as we use like Englobe for material testing, so like strength testing, we'll get the pucks done and things like that. We are going to articulate that we are going to take them as their authority, right? So if the scaling comes back not preferable or we end up with a lower product, we have to remember this is a restorative this is a restorative process. This is not a new road, so it's going to be pretty hard, and it's really going to just translate into what the life cycle of that road is. So at the end of the day, the roads will be black, but we are going to accept whatever BM Ross comes back with, and they are experts in this field. So I think at this point, given the budget, it is warranted to do that. But unlike the previous contract, this is going in at the start, eyes wide open.
Okay, any further questions? Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, through the mayor. I just want to say I was happy to see that evaluation. I'm very disappointed to see low bidder on this. It's unfortunate because I think there's still deficiencies that will never get looked at again. But I am happy to see that we're taking steps for the future to deal with incidents like that. So kudos to you guys for implementing this, and obviously our hands are tied on the open bidding system like this, but yeah, hopefully steps are moving forward.
Councilor Pridham?
Yes, thank you. I just, through your worship, I just have a question about how much do you expect it would cost to have them on BM Ross on site, once a day?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Pridham. So we have a baseline estimate for all engineering services to be around 7 to 10% of total contract value. So based off of the high end on that, I actually put together some figures here. So off of the 10% from the total estimate, we're looking at $21,409. I did reach out to BM Ross and Associates for some more hardline dollar figures. So for a senior inspector, we're looking at an hourly rate of $117 and about $95 daily for mileage. So that brings our daily rate on an assumed 9-hour day to be $1,148. If we encompass an estimated 2%, that would be through the utilization of Englobe to get testing on the material. All in all, with a total estimate of 15 days, we're looking at $17,220. And just for a little bit extra protection on ourselves, I also budgeted in a 30% contingency, which brings it to $22,386. Overall, with those expenses on the budget, we would still be in surplus of $68,954.
Thank you. That answers my question, and we're still, have extra. Thank you.
Sorry, through the question. So longer term, I would expect that we'd be able to do this in-house, but I think given that it's a new process, I think it's an expense that's warranted.
Okay. We talked about this previously. Councillor Craigmile?
Yeah, and I think it's important because the word will get out there. And in the future, you'll pick and choose when and who you won't use it, but they'll all be coming to the job site thinking that somebody may be there.
Through the worship. So as we had the other discussion about it, this isn't from the minds of Jed and Austin. This is coming from subject matter experts. So this is that form actually came from another municipality. So this is what other bigger municipalities are doing. And then whatever gets built in the procurement bylaw from, if you have a bad evaluation, there's certainly like a cooling off period. I've heard up to 4 or 5 years. So depending on what happens, but it's probably something that we just should have covered a long time ago. But here we are.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing nothing, I'll put the motion on the floor then. The suggested motion is that report PW 45-2026 procurement award for asphalt resurfacing be received, and the council awards the 2026 asphalt resurfacing project to Armstrong Paving and Materials Group Limited for the tender price of $214,092.99, inclusive of taxes and contingencies, and the staff be directed to implement a formalized contractor performance review process for the 2026 asphalt resurfacing program using the flexible pavement condition evaluation forms as presented in PW 45-2026, and the council authorized staff to retain BM Ross and Associates for daily inspection services to be administered by the Infrastructure Services Manager as necessary. So I'm willing to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Craigmile, seconded. Councillor Alward. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Yep. No worries. Right. next item up is council reports. So we'll diverge to my left this time and start with Councillor Alward.
This has never happened. Okay. I usually have a lot of time to prep. It's wild. Okay. So the BIA did meet August 10th. So the first thing I'll talk about kind of on that agenda is we received a request from Chantel Lynch regarding a small business tax class. So essentially her question was if the town had ever considered implementing a small business tax class before or had the discussion. So I worked with our clerk and our finance director, and they found that in 2023 budget discussion, Andre actually brought that forward, and we did have that discussion then. Essentially, his findings were that it was incredibly administratively burdensome and that few municipalities had implemented it. You have to work with MPAC, and it's very complex, as well as the fact that sort of the idea kind of becomes that is that sort of like investment of property tax, 'cause no matter what the burden shifts, is that sort of investment worth committing to when we could invest in things like the CIP or other initiatives that would better fit the downtown rather than adjusting the tax class and then shifting the burden to probably the residents, of course, right? So beyond that, I talked about that we approved the board term extension, which we had talked about last meeting. We had a donation request from Rotary Hospice of some downtown St. Mary's dollars. So we gave them $250 for their auction, which is nice. We had a Heritage Festival post-event discussion. Overall, I get the sense everyone did very well during Heritage Festival. I've been around downtown trying to do some research myself, and it sounds like everyone had a really good weekend, all in all, so that's nice to hear. We had a succession planning discussion with regards to documents, just looking at getting a Google Drive going, because we're running out of space for all the pictures we take. And then, okay, so in my council report, we did have a discussion about the vacancies that we discussed at SPC quite a while ago. So I did attach the staff reports directly into a council report, and then I couldn't attend that first meeting, so they wanted to discuss specifically the vacancies at this past meeting. There were some concerns from BIA members that the list of vacancies we had were inaccurate in terms of timeline, as well as there were suggestions that some vacancies were missing. So I've asked if I could work with some of the board members if they wanted to take a look and compile the list, and we could send it to staff for further use or information. There was also concern that, because some of the board members did watch the SPC meeting, there was concern that council was sort of downplaying the issue and that we were staying status quo and kind of ignoring the problem of vacancy. In terms of some of the chronic long-term vacancies downtown. I think by the end of the discussion, there was an understanding that the focus on tourism and economic development is still there, and that is in large part the remedy to many of these problems, and they feel strongly that that is the solution. So I believe we are aligned on that. They were just some sincere concern with council's sort of attitude towards the issue. I'll be frank about that. Beyond that, I have nothing else to report about that specific meeting, and that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Alward? Councillor Pridham, please.
Thank you. I just got a couple of things. We did have a quick library board meeting, and it was really just to, if the board wanted to support the purchase of a wishing well to be installed at the PRC. And that, before the actual meeting happened, someone came forward and said that they would donate the funds to purchase this wishing well. So it really was just our board supporting the fact that that would, and that looks like put a coin in and it goes whirling around and then it ends up in the bottom, and it's something that kids would enjoy doing, and it's also a passive kind of fundraiser for 14 Church Street. And the other thing is Chamber of Commerce is having an event, it's now annual event, at Broken Rail. And that is on, oh my goodness, now I didn't write that down. When is that? Oh gosh, I think it's like the 3rd of September, but you guys really, if you want to go, it is the 3rd of September. Okay, it's a Thursday, isn't it? Thursday, 3rd of September. So if you want to go, if you're interested in attending, please do go onto the Chamber of Commerce website and register so that you are included in this, fun little event, which includes a cornhole tournament, which is kind of fun too. So I think that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councilor Pridham? Councilor Lucas, please.
Thank you, through the mayor. Just one meeting to report on, and it was last night. It was a joint committee meeting with Planning Advisory Committee and Committee of Adjustments, just going over the zoning bylaw review with our consultants. It was a fairly fulsome discussion last night. I would say Councillor Craigmile would agree. We were a couple hours long. Lots of good points raised, lots of back and forth, I think. There might be some interesting parking recommendations for some downtown revitalization as far as development and stuff. So I think there was some progressive forward thinking that came out last night at the meeting. But again, as noted in Mr. Brower's report, we will get our statutory meeting on the 22nd, I believe. So I think what we'll see here at council will be a fairly robust report with some interesting stuff in it. But yeah, I think that is all I have. I'm sure Councillor Craigmile will fill in the gaps for me.
Any questions for Councillor Lucas? Okay. Councillor Luna, please.
Thank you, Worship. No real meetings to report, but we did receive word at the HPPH board level that Dr. Lauren Hayward has finally been, her appointment as the Associate Medical Officer of Health for the HPPH has finally been approved by the ministry. It's been, I'm going to say, almost a year in the waiting, but great news. She's a wonderful advocate for public health, and it's a great addition to the health unit. And then we did talk about the bell tower at Spruce Lodge, and again, it's just added value for the residents there, and for the area, and income for Tower 1. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Craigmile?
Thank you, Worship. I'll just carry on with the pack, and it was a good discussion, and I believe that it's now in the hands of the consultants and our staff to hear what everybody had to say, and then by the time it gets to council in September 22, I believe it is, for the public hearing, that they should have formulated everything and got it there, and then we'll get a good look at it. So I think everybody, both committees, were pleased with what was presented last night, so that's good. The Blue Water Resources, there's always an issue, especially this time of year, because some of them are doing part-time driving, or farmers and get back out on the field, so they take a leave of absence or whatever. So we're always short drivers this time of year, but they've constantly had open houses and trying to bring in more drivers. The bad news I have about BRA is that there was a severe accident there. I believe it was just on the weekend, just a few days ago. A driver was an operator in the working on vehicles at around 6 o'clock at night, because they kind of work 4 to 11, people doing maintenance on vehicles and stuff, and he was crushed by one of the cabs, so he was airlifted. So what I do know as of right now, so far so good, you know, no broken bones or anything, did have a collapsed lung, et cetera, but quite sore, but the prognosis for recovery is looking really, really good. I don't know anymore because, of course, now everybody's in there doing their investigations, and I think the whole area was cordoned off until I believe sometime last night it was going to be given back to them. So we just hope for good news coming forward on that. There's been I haven't been to any Lincoln's meeting because they had them at the same time as council now, but they'll be firing up again soon, and as I keep getting when their dates are, I may get to one, but I have talked to the executive, and I told them to expect notes, a letter probably from Jenna about what we decided on, you know, should we be there at all the meetings and whatnot. And they said to me, no, there's not much you can do now, and we know where to contact you or Brent if we need anything. So I'll move on to the minor hockey, and I've done the same thing there, but they do have a meeting September 1st, which I plan on going to. And I'll let them all know there that, in case the president hasn't got a letter yet, but it's not a real issue anymore without any ice scheduling conflicts or whatever, but. Upper Thames. So this morning, I apologize for having to dash out of our meeting, and I thought I'd get out there for a while and come back in, but we had an Upper Thames meeting this morning, and I felt it was really important I attend because they were trying to provide a draft budget because they've been told to, before February to get the draft budget done and get it done as normal as their own units. So they were presenting everything they had done. So they've gone through all the budget numbers, and as I see as a draft right now, it's, we're looking in slightly over that 5% range. It's difficult doing a draft, especially on a lot of equipment, which we're going to see right away. St. Mary's being, looking after Wildwood Dam and things like that, because a lot of the WECI funding hasn't been, that may pay 50% of funds, hasn't been awarded yet. So right now, our number of what we're entitled to may look big, but I expect it to come down to somewhere around where it was last year or whatever. But anyways, it was interesting because I remember I talked with the CAO there 3 months ago, and I said, Upper Thames is under the impression that even though there's an election coming up, municipal, that you were supposed to go to the meetings until February. Today, they tell me that no, they've seen the notice that's written, and it does say elected. So after election day, if you're not applying or you're not elected, you're not really going to the meetings, and there's a lot of people on the board that will not be attending. So the concern is they're going to have nobody there. A, they won't have quorum, and B, they won't have anybody there with any experience. So somebody within the ministry has told them that if somebody's willing to come and you get us names, we'll turn around a letter saying you can go as a board member within 3 days or something. So there was a lot of interesting stuff. It's, anytime there's a transition of moving forward, there's all kinds of questions and whatnot. You hear different things, but I do believe, I've met Davin Heinbach quite a few times, especially on the golf course, and I seem to be a very reasonable person. I think it's going to be very positive moving forward, and he's local, so it's easy to get a hold of him to have meetings. He keeps telling me that we're going to get together soon, but he's extremely busy right now. So I don't think I have anything else to offer there, but I'm still hopeful that we see lots of positive changes spring next year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I just wanted to mention, I did attend AMO in Ottawa, which was an interesting conference this year. And two things that were announced that are of some interest. There was a large allotment of money, I believe it was $800 million for municipalities that choose to waive their development fees. And as we've discussed in the past, that's like kicking a problem down the road. We don't, I've said continuously, our revenue tools are not adequate. We're dealing with issues where they weren't designed for property taxes, and one of the revenue tools we have to pay for future growth is development charges, and the province is encouraging municipalities to get rid of development charges to increase housing, which we need. But in my opinion, it kicks a problem down the road because there'll be deficiencies in the future. I think it's an absurd way to solve a problem. But again, just for information purposes, there's also a new recreation fund, probably because there's probably an election imminent eventually, where our staff have currently looking at to see whether we qualify for arenas and so forth. So that's it. And they did play the funding video that we made earlier in the pool, so I became a celebrity for 15 seconds. Actually, they played it just before the premier spoke, so I became the pool guy at the convention. Actually, so it was actually quite it was quite amusing actually. So, anyway, is there any? That's all I wanted to mention for an update. Is there anything else from council want to mention? Councilor Alward, anyone forgot?
Thanks. Sorry, I didn't get the point across well enough, but I will thank both the clerk and the finance director for their assistance with my response to that issue for the BIA meeting. It was really useful, and Spencer actually turned something around for me on incredibly short notice the day of, so I do appreciate that, truly.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing else, then the suggested motion would be that committee and board minutes listed under agenda items 9.1 to 9.17 be received, and that the verbal updates provided by council representatives on those committee and board meetings be received. So I'm going to move that motion. Moved by Councilor Luna, second by Councilor Pridham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Craigmile, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Brogan, you might be able to help me out a little bit here. I did very quickly run through that meeting online. And was it the reports that they said about there's nothing we could do for tax on those vacant buildings downtown? Was that, were they talking about? But the report was pretty clear. There was nothing available for us. There was no tool.
Yeah, and I think I don't know that it was necessarily from a perspective of taxation. I think it was the fact that they thought that we felt like it was a settled issue. Like, you know, I mean, I understand like from the taxation perspective, but that we didn't see it as a priority to try and draw people to fill those vacancies. That was more their concern.
Okay, anything further? All right, so the suggested motion is that the committee and board minutes listed under items 9.1 to 9.7 be received, and the verbal updates provided by council represented on those committees and boards be received. That's been moved by Councillor Craigmile and Councillor Luna, I think. So, seeing nothing else, I'll put the motion to question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Under emergent or unfinished businesses, I have nothing. I have nothing under notices of motion. Upcoming meetings, we have 3 listed in September. The 8th, which is regular council at 6 p.m. The 15th, which is strategic priorities at 9 in the morning. And the 22nd, which is 6 p.m. regular council. Any other meetings anyone wants to mention coming up? Okay, I will be absent on the 22nd. Deputy Mayor Allward will be in the chair. So that leads us to closed session. So we'll adjourn here for 5 minutes while we prepare for closed session. we'll reconvene then, if council's okay. So I'll seek a motion that council move into a session that is closed to the public at 2:47 p.m. as authorized under the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239-2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Someone to move that motion, moved by Councillor Alward, seconded Councillor Luna. All in favor? Motion's carried.